Hey everybody, it's Erica Vetra coming to you with the first in my new series of beginner-friendly hour-long yoga practices. So if you are new to practicing for an hour straight, I would say take this slow. Pause anytime, take a break, grab some water, towel off, just kind of take a few deep breaths. You're always welcome to come to child's pose or just sit down and chill out for a minute. An hour is a really nice time to practice. It's also long, so be patient with yourself. We're going to get started in child's pose today, so grab your mat and whatever else you need, maybe a blanket or a block if you want to use some props. I don't usually use them, but you are more than welcome to. So let's get started. Go ahead and come to your knees. Relax your hips back onto your heels. And then let your head come to the ground. So coming just into this nice easy beginning, just a gentle stretch for the spine. And then if you are a little bit tight in your back or in your hips might not reach all the way down to your heels. That's totally no problem. You can either just kind of stay up as you are, or some people like to put something between their hips and their heels, like a blanket or even a block or kind of a rolled up yoga mat, something like that. If your head doesn't reach the ground, no worries. Rest it on your forearms, maybe your fists, maybe another blanket or some sort of comfortable spot for your forehead. And then just close your eyes softly. Take a moment to arrive in your practice. You don't have anything to worry about for the next hour. Just breathe and stretch. Listen to my cues, but more importantly, listen to your body. With your arms out in front of you, start to just push down and forward gently with your hands, melting your hips a little further back onto your heels. Take your attention to your breath and start to breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose and slowly and deeply out through your mouth. And feel a little bit of space being created in your spine, right? So as if each vertebra was just getting a little bit further away from the next one, right? So just breathing a lot of length. Thinking about opening, stretching, relaxing, and also energizing. Another couple deep breaths here. Feel free to roll your forehead back and forth a little bit, massaging that point right between your eyebrows. This point can tend to hold a lot of stress, so just kind of relax. And then very gently make your way to tabletop pose, hands and knees. So here we start to add in just a little bit of movement, just for mobility, just to kind of warm up your spine, and think about beginning to link your breath with your movement. So this is a vinyasa style practice, which means linking breath with movement. And it's generally one movement takes the full span of an inhale or an exhale. So as you inhale, think about dropping your belly, lifting your hips, lifting your head. This is called cow pose. Really open the front of your chest here. And then as you exhale, reverse that motion around your spine, curl your tailbone and your head towards each other. Cat pose, kind of like an angry cat. And then inhaling to cow pose, lift your hips, lift your head, open your chest. Exhale, cat pose, round everything in, curl and press the ground away with your hands. So just keep moving like this for a few minutes. And sometimes what I like to do is move a little side to side, kind of stretching out my side waist. You can take circles with your hips, with your rib cage, whatever you need, whatever feels good to kind of get moving. While we're here, I'd like to ask you, I just got my hair cut the other day, and I don't cut my hair very often, so it was kind of a big deal for me. But I wanted to let you know that happened, and I decided to wear it half up and half down today to kind of change it up a little bit. I usually wear my hair up in ponytails for yoga workout videos, but I wanted to try something different. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer all up, all down, half up, half down? And then in general, are you a short hair person, a long hair person? I really, really like long hair, but it does get in the way sometimes. And then nice and slow, take your hands right under your shoulders, spread your fingers super wide, tuck your toes, and straighten your legs into plank pose. So this is the first kind of active pose of this practice. High plank position is like the top of a push-up. So I like to sort of rock around a little bit, get my bearings, get a really strong base of support. So the big toe ball mounds of your feet should be like pretty firm into the ground. And you're going to press your heels back towards the back of your mat as you reach your heart forward. And then it's important not to lock out your joints. So just keep a really gentle micro bend in your arms. Curl your tailbone in so that you take that kind of sway out of your low back. You don't ever want to be sagging down. And if this starts to happen, just put your knees on the ground, right? So you want a straight line from your knees to your shoulders. This is modified plank, and you get the exact same benefits. It is just as good for you. It just takes a little bit of stress off your low back. So just have a couple breaths here and notice what's starting to happen to your breath. It might be getting a little bit more labored as you start to get warm, right? You start to get a little heated. Draw your shoulders down your spine, away from your ears. Take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, bend your elbows towards the back of your mat. Come all the way down to your belly. Nice and slow. Untuck your toes. Press all 10 of your toenails into the ground. Keep your hands where they are, and then roll your shoulders away from you, coming into baby cobra. It's the first back bend. As you do this, stay for a few breaths. See if you can press your hips into your mat without using your glutes, right? So if you can relax your butt, right? Relax your glutes so that you're using your back muscles to lift you up. Slide your shoulder blades towards your spine. Keep your gaze a little bit down so you're not crunching your neck. You don't want to have your head like way up like this, right? Take one more deep breath in, and then exhale, release, come down. Straighten your arms, come right back to child's pose. So take your hips back onto your heels, relax your head. Couple deep breaths here. Push down and forward with your hands, soften your hips even further back onto your heels. By now, maybe things are starting to feel a little bit more open. One more deep breath in here, and one more deep breath out. And then as you inhale, you're going to crawl right back to plank pose. Hands under your shoulders. Take your time getting here. You're going to have your knees on the ground, or if you feel like you're ready for it, tuck your toes, straighten your legs, squeeze everything in towards the midline of your body like you're squeezing it towards your belly button. Lift the back of your neck towards the sky. Make a really straight line from the top of your head all the way to your heels. One more deep breath in. And as you exhale, lower all the way down to your mat. Elbows bending back. Untuck your toes. Lift your heart for cobra pose. Inhale here. Slide your shoulders down your spine. And then exhale, slowly release. Now this time, you're going to tuck your toes. Inhale your way up to tabletop pose. And then straighten your legs. Take your knees off the ground, coming to the first downward facing dog. So this might be your first downward facing dog of the day, might be your first downward facing dog ever, of the week, of the month, whatever it is. Just know that every time you do this pose, it's going to feel different. So check in with your body, see how you feel today. Drop your head low, sink your heels down towards your mat, and they don't have to touch, but just think about getting a nice stretch in the backs of your legs. You can pedal your feet out a little bit, one by one. Bend into one knee and then the other. And then slide your shoulders away from your ears. You want a really nice long neck. And then try to evenly distribute your weight between all 10 of your fingers, right? So you're not just using your wrists, you're using your knuckles, your finger pads, and then this webbing right between your index fingers and your thumbs. This is really important because there are a lot of yoga poses that use your wrists, right? They use your hands. So you want to make sure that you're not dumping all your weight right into the base there. And then from here, you're going to look up between your hands, come up high onto your tippy toes, and then just really softly baby step your way all the way to the top of your mat, coming into Uttanasana forward fold. Drop your head low. Let your arms totally relax, and you can even grab opposite elbows here, sway a little bit side to side. Again, just really thinking about length from your hips, your tailbone, all the way up your spine to the top of your head. And it's also important to note here that you don't want to put any stress on your low back, so you don't have to have your legs straight. If they're straight, that's fine as long as you're not locking them out, but you can have them bent slightly. You can even have them bent a lot so that your belly's resting on your thighs. And try to shift a little more weight out of your heels towards the fronts of your feet, lifting your hips up more, dropping your head lower. And then from here, you're going to bring your hands to the ground or to your shins. It's up to you. Inhale to lengthen your spine, using your hands to create that traction, pulling your spine long, sending your heart forward. And then exhaling to fold. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, halfway lift. Glance up, pull your shoulders away from your ears. And then exhale to fold. So we're getting ready to stand up. Bring your feet together. Your big toe ball mounds are going to be touching. And then your heels are going to be either touching or about 1 inch apart. Drop your head all the way. Pretend to look at your belly button so that your neck is totally released. And then as slow as can be, you're going to roll up to standing, 1 vertebra at a time. 1 by 1, as if you were unfurling a sleeping bag or unrolling a yoga mat. Your head's going to be the last thing to come up. And here we arrive in Tadasana, mountain pose. So with your feet together, start to just get really strong here, right? As if you were going to press down with your heels into your mat, and in the big toe ball mounds of your feet, feel your inner thighs kind of roll towards the back of the room as you lift your kneecaps, activate your thighs, pull everything up, like pull energy up from the ground, right? Tuck your tailbone under just a tiny bit. So you're taking that spine and you're making it longer, right? Lengthening your back, widening your low back. Keep your kneecaps lifted, lift your low belly up towards your heart, and then gather in the sides of your rib cage. Make everything strong. Take your arms down by your sides, palms facing forward. Slide your shoulders down your back. Re-engage your core, lift your heart. Take a deep breath in and stretch your arms to the sky. And then as you exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as you want here, but try to keep your back flat. On your inhale, hands down, halfway lift. And then on your exhale, fold once more, plant your palms, step both of your feet back to plank pose. So we're gonna get into some sun salutations here. The first one we'll do a little bit more slowly. We'll hold each pose for a couple of breaths and then we'll speed it up. So all fingers spread really, really super wide, like starfish, right? Take your index fingers parallel to the long edges of your mat. Press the backs of your knees towards the sky unless you're modifying with your knees on the ground. Totally fine. Just keep your core contracted. Take a last deep breath in here and then exhale to bend your elbows, coming all the way down to your mat. Untuck your toes. Inhale for cobra pose. Lift your heart. Float your heart off of your mat. Relax your glutes. And then exhale, release. On your inhale, come to hands and knees or plank pose. Push everything off the ground at once. And then on your exhale, send your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths here, again, pedaling it out. So think about every time you come back to this pose, kind of everything just gets a little bit more long, a little bit more open. Wrap your triceps back, wrap your biceps forward, and then find that broadness in your upper back. It's a very strengthening pose. And then as you're ready, look between your hands, bend your knees, come up high onto the balls of your feet, and baby step your way all the way up to the top, forward fold. Inhale to halfway lift, flatten your back, glance forward, and then exhale to fold, coming to standing. So this time, instead of rolling up 1 vertebra at a time, you're gonna bend your knees just slightly, and then with a flat back, lift all the way up. Press your palms together above your head, and then exhale, draw your hands down to the center of your chest. Anjali Mudra. Stand strong, heels down, kneecaps up, belly in, heart up, shoulders down. Draw the sides of your neck towards the back of the room and then lift through the crown of your head. Imagine that you were getting taller. And we're gonna speed this up a little bit. Now it's 1 breath per movement. On your inhale, stretch your arms out and up. Press your palms together above your head. And then exhale, dive forward. Relax your heart over your thighs. Inhale, half lift. Pull your shoulders down away from your ears. And then exhale to fold. Step straight back to plank pose. 1 breath in to prepare. Stay strong. Exhale, come all the way down to your mat. Inhale for cobra. Shoulders roll away from your ears. Lift your heart. Squeeze your elbows towards each other. And then exhale, release. Beautiful. Tuck your toes to engage your core. Inhale to hands and knees or plank pose. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog, and take a couple of breaths here. Just kind of hang out, shake your head around a little bit side to side. Try to take the tension out of your jaw, so you could even lick your teeth, kind of move your lips around a little bit. Make sure you're not holding any tension where you don't need it. Keep your neck nice and long. And then as you're ready, bend your knees, gaze forward. Engage your core, step or maybe hop all the way to the top of your mat. Drop your head. Inhale to halfway lift, flatten your back, glance forward. And then exhale to fold. Coming to standing once more. Flatten your back, soften your knees. Inhale, come all the way up, palms touch above your head. And then exhale your hands to prayer. One more like this, and then we'll move on. So as you're ready, stand strong, lift everything. Inhale your arms to the sky. And then exhale with a flat back, fall forward. Inhale to half lift, long spine. Exhale to fold, step back to plank pose. Inhale to prepare, really press the ground away with your hands. Exhale, lower all the way down to your belly. Untuck your toes. Inhale for cobra pose. You could float your hands off of your mat if you want to really activate your back muscles. And then exhale to release. Keep your hands where they are. Tuck your toes. Inhale to plank pose. Exhale up and back, downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths here. Really check in. How are you feeling? Are you feeling a little bit longer, a little bit looser? Are you feeling a little bit tired? Whatever it is, honor it, accept it, and then move on. So it's important even with these longer yoga workouts to really check in with yourself as much as possible, right? So if you're not used to practicing for an hour, or even if you are, just constantly check in, constantly ask yourself, am I breathing deeply? Am I engaging everything? Is my face relaxed? Am I listening to my body? As you're ready, bend your knees, gaze forward, step or hop to the top of your mat, drop your head, breathe. So I'm going to take you through a few rounds of Sun Salutation B, Surya Namaskar B. The first one is going to move a little bit more slowly, and then we'll go through a couple rounds on the breath. This should get things heated up pretty well. So as you're ready, go ahead and inhale to come to standing. Flatten your back, lift up. Big breath in, press your palms together above your head, and then exhale your hands to prayer. So Surya Namaskar B is a little bit more involved than the Sun Salutation A that we just did. It's going to start off in chair pose. So like I said, we'll spend a couple breaths in each pose. Feel free to stop anytime. Feel free to go faster if you want. From here, you're going to start to sit your hips low. So think about taking your butt towards the back of your mat rather than just dropping down low. The reason you want to do this is because if you just drop your hips down low, then your knees are going to pop out in front of your feet. You don't want that. You don't want pressure on your kneecaps, right? So with your feet together, knees together, kind of start sticking your butt back as if someone like had you by the belt loop, right? And they're pulling you back. That's going to keep your knees centered right over your ankles. And then start to come down enough that with your arms straight, you could brush the ground with your fingertips. So that's going to be your chair pose, right? Keep pressing down in the big toe ball mounds of your feet and in your heels. And then as you're ready, lift up your heart. Utkatasana is the Sanskrit name. It's called awkward chair for obvious reasons. And you're going to kind of keep energetically drawing your hips back as if someone kind of had a chair behind you and they're pulling it out, right? Like they do in grade school, or at least they used to do that to me. All right, so squeeze your knees together, squeeze your inner thighs together, and then find a little bit of cobra in your upper back, right? So you're going to really just kind of push your chest forward, but then keep in mind that you don't want to lose core engagement. So with your rib cage, you're going to kind of draw your ribs in, curl your tailbone in. You want to make a flat back, so no crazy arching, no over rounding, right? Lift your arms up. If you can, try pulling your biceps back towards your face, maybe even behind your ears, but don't lose this core engagement, right? Lift your low belly up towards your heart. Take one more deep breath in here, stay strong, and as you exhale, fold forward, straighten your legs, drop your head. Inhale to halfway lift, flatten your back. And then exhale to fold. You're going to move through your flow, step your feet back, nice and steady. Stay strong, inhaling to prepare, and then exhaling to bend your elbows, come all the way down to your mat. Toes untuck, inhale for cobra pose, lift your heart, float your palms, really engage your back muscles here. And then exhale, release. Inhale to hands and knees or plank pose, engage everything. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. All right. So from here, really press the ground away with your hands. Keep your neck long. Lift your right leg up into the air. So sometimes the tendency is for the hips to splay open, and that's fine for other poses, but for right now, we're going to keep them closed. So you want to think about both hip tips being equidistant from the ground. See if you can drop your left heel a little closer down, and then lift through your right heel. So everything's straight, and you might feel a pretty good stretch in your left hamstring, right? Take one more inhale, maybe lift an inch higher, and then as you exhale, you're going to bring your right foot between your hands. If it doesn't make it quite there, just grab your ankle, step it up a little bit more, right? Spin your left foot down at about 45 degrees. Super glue the outer edge of your left foot to the ground before you go anywhere. Take your right thumb right into your right hip crease and draw it back. And we're getting ready to come all the way up into Warrior One. Engage your core and then lift all the way up. So you're in a lunge. And if you've done my other videos, we've been in this pose before, right? So the first time you do it, it's always just a little bit tricky. You want to get both of your hips square to the front of your mat. And you can even use your hands to do this. I like to do this sometimes. So you draw your right hip back, draw your left hip forward, pull your belly up and in, and try to stack your shoulders right over your hips. So sometimes we tend to maybe lean forward or lean back too much or kind of splay energy out of the front, right? So you want to hug it in, knit the sides of your rib cage together, curl your tailbone in just a little bit, keep drawing this hip back, and then really press down like you're pressing the gas pedal, right, of your car. Press down into your right big toe ball mound, and then push your left leg as straight as it'll go. This is a challenging pose, right? So if you stay here for a while, you're going to really, really feel it. Sit as low as you want to. Just make sure your right knee stays tracking over your right heel. You don't want it popping out. Lift your arms to the sky. Rotate your pinkies inward and your thumbs outward. Hi, camera. Take one more breath in. And then as you exhale, bring your hands all the way down to your mat. Step your feet back to plank pose. Take your time. Big inhale to prepare. Listen closely. Exhale, bend your elbows 90 degrees. Chaturanga. So this pose is very challenging. You don't want your shoulders dipping below your elbows ever. That puts a lot of pressure on your rotator cuff. Curl your tailbone in. Reach your heart forward. Anytime you need to, you can bring your knees down. Like with modified plank, you still get the same benefits. Take one more inhale, and then exhale, lower all the way. Untuck your toes, cobra pose on your inhale, lift your heart, and then exhale, release. So from cobra, we're going to try coming straight into upward facing dog. And if this feels like a little bit too much for you, don't worry about it. Just take another cobra pose. But basically, upward facing dog is a little bit more involved. It's a heart opener. It's a back bend. You're going to straighten your legs out really firm behind you and really think about sending your big toes back. It's going to give you the right alignment, right? So press your big toes down into your mat. Keep your hands where they are, kind of just outside your breastbones. Roll your shoulder heads away from your ears. And then as you're ready, gather your strength. Start to push like you were going to come into cobra, but you're going to keep right on going. Pushing your arms straight, lifting your whole torso off the ground, lifting your legs off the ground. So eventually what this is going to look like is your hands are going to be right under your shoulders. You don't want your shoulders ahead of your hands. You don't want them behind. So check to make sure. Shoulders should be stacked right over your wrists. And then nothing should be on the ground except for your hands and the tops of your feet. Once you get that, roll your shoulders down even more. Press your heart forward like you're trying to show it off, right? Draw the sides of your neck back. This is upward facing dog. It's a really beautiful back bend. Really good heart opener. Make your hips heavy, right? Engage your core. Lift your belly towards your heart. Take a last deep breath in here, and as you exhale, curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. So that's an option for you guys. Whenever you go through a flow or a vinyasa, you're welcome to step back to plank pose and lower all the way down to your mat, or you can lower halfway down for chaturanga. Chaturanga is a really tough pose. It takes a while to get, but just practice. Practice a lot. A lot of this stuff is just repetition. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. So let's go to the other side. Drop your head, relax your neck. lift up your left leg, tripod down dog. So again here, instead of letting your hips kind of splay open, turn your left hip down. See if you can point your left pinky toe towards your mat, right? So that's kind of a cue to help your hips stay square. Drop your right heel, really stretch your calf. Inhale your left leg 1 inch higher maybe. And then exhale, step forward. Again, use your hands to help your foot along if you need to. You're gonna drop your right heel. Make sure your right foot's about 45 degrees, and then before you go anywhere, draw your left thumb to your left hip crease and pull it back. Like really use your finger to pull your left hip back. You're gonna feel a stretch right in the left side of your low back. Come on up to Warrior One. And then from here, just go through and check your alignment, right? So your left knee should be stacked right over your left ankle, and then really gas pedal down into your mat with your left foot. It's gonna help keep your leg really strong. And then physically take your hands to your hips, pull your left hip back, pull your right hip forward. And then something else that I like to do in this Warrior One pose is think about my back leg rotating inward. So it's almost like you're grabbing your back thigh and spinning it in. That's gonna draw your right hip forward, draw your left hip back, and then make this leg really strong. Press it straight. Take one more deep breath in, reach your arms as high as they'll go, and then exhale your hands to your mat. Now here we go, let's try this slightly more involved vinyasa. Step back to plank, take a deep breath in, exhale, lower halfway down, hug your elbows into your rib cage, and then inhale right into upward facing dog, flatten your feet on your mat, push your heart forward, let your gaze come up, exhale, downward facing dog. And once you get here, hang out for a few breaths. Check in, how are you feeling? Where is your breath? It should always be moving freely. You should always be breathing deeply. And that doesn't necessarily mean slowly, it just means deeply. Your oxygen energizes you, it charges your body, right? So if you start to get tired, breathe deeper. Take a break, deepen your breath, relax your face. As you're ready, gaze between your hands, come up high onto your tiptoes, bend your knees, and then step or hop to the top of your mat. Drop your head and breathe. Now this time, to end the sun salutation B, you're going to put your feet together, sit your hips low, go ahead and brush the ground with your fingertips. Lift your heart on your inhale for chair pose. Sit nice and low, squeeze those thighs together, and then stand, bring your hands to prayer. So that's sun salutation B. We're going to take it a little bit faster now, right? We're going to do 1 breath per movement. So as you're ready, gather your breath, close your eyes for a moment, lift up your heart, lift up your kneecaps, curl your tailbone in, take a couple of deep breaths here. As you're ready, start to send your hips back. Sit low, brush the ground with your fingertips. Inhale for chair pose. Remember, 1 breath per movement. Exhale, dive forward, relax your torso over your thighs. Inhale for halfway lift, pull your spine long. And then exhale, step back to plank. Lower halfway or all the way on the same breath. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog, whatever you feel ready for. And then exhale, right up and back, downward facing dog. On the very next inhale, take your right leg up and back behind you. Keep your hips square to your mat. Exhale, step your right foot between your hands. Spin your left heel down. Big breath in to lift all the way up into Warrior One. Reach your arms as high as they'll go. And then 1 exhale to plant your palms, step your feet back, and lower halfway or all the way down. That's a big breath. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog. Really push your heart forward. Exhale for downward facing dog. Lift your hips up, drop your head. On the very next inhale, lift your left leg up and back behind you. Exhale, step your left foot between your hands. Spin your right foot down 45 degrees. Inhale for Warrior One. Take the deepest breath you can. And then exhale all the way back to Chaturanga. Plant your hands. Step back. Lower halfway or all the way. Inhale for Cobra or Up Dog. And then exhale up and back. Downward facing dog. Once you get to down dog, hang out for a few breaths. Shake your head. pedal your feet out, check in. How does your down dog feel now? Now that you're a little warmer, remember, keep evenly distributing that weight in your fingers, right? It gets more and more important. The deeper you get into your yoga practice, you really need to protect your wrists, protect your joints. Bend your knees, gaze forward, step or hop to the top of your mat. Drop your head, breathe. Sit your hips low, brush the ground with your fingertips. One inhale for chair pose, reach your arms high, and then as you exhale, stand all the way up, bring your hands to prayer. All right, one more round on the breath. As you're ready, start to drop your hips back and down. Touch the ground with your fingers. Inhale for chair pose. Sit low, reach high. And then exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold, and drop your head. Inhale to halfway lift, pull everything long. And then exhale to fold, step back, lower halfway or all the way down. Same breath out. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. The very next inhale, lift your right leg up and back, hips square. Exhale, step your right foot between your hands. Spin your left heel down at 45 degrees. Big, huge breath in for warrior one. Reach up and sit low. And then exhale all the way back to chaturanga. Plant your hands, step back, lower halfway or all the way down, using your knees if you want to. Inhale for your back bend, cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale your hips up and back, downward facing dog, right into the second side. Inhale your left leg up and back, keep it as straight as it'll go. And then exhale, step it forward, spin your left heel down 45 degrees. Gigantic breath in, warrior one, reach up high, sit low. And then exhale your hands to your mat, take it all the way back to chaturanga. Start to build a flow. Inhale, open, cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths. With each inhale, lift your hips higher, and with each exhale, sink your heels lower. Let your head come towards the floor, right? Let your chest melt towards your thighs. And then bend your knees, gaze forward, step or hop to the top of your mat. Drop your head. Last chair pose for now. Brush the ground with your fingertips, drop your hips, lift your heart, one breath here, and then exhale, stand all the way up. Hands to prayer. So you're probably feeling slightly warm by now, maybe a little bit more activated, a little bit more energized, hopefully. If you're still following along, you're doing great. Thank you so much. And I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you if you prefer shorter yoga workouts or longer ones. So like I said before, this is my first part. This is the first part of my series of hour-long workouts. All of the stuff that I've had so far has been, 15 to 20 minutes. So let me know, what do you prefer, short or long? If you're still with us, take a couple seconds, just kind of relax, couple deep breaths, close your eyes, move your jaw around, release anything that you might be holding in your face. You can even shake your arms out. We're gonna move on here in a couple seconds. So as you're ready, find your way back to your mountain pose, Tadasana. Stand strong into your feet, lift the inner arches of your feet. It's almost like you're gripping the ground with your toes, right? And not like a death grip, not a crazy death grip, but you wanna be firm. Yoga poses, a lot of them start in the feet. So the firmer your foundation is, the stronger your feet are contacting the ground, the better base you have to really just lift up into the pose, right? So from here, draw your kneecaps up, curl your tailbone in, get tall, shoulders down your spine. Take a deep breath in, take your arms to the sky, and then exhale, fall forward, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. And then exhale, step back, move through your vinyasa. Come to plank pose. Lower down halfway or all the way, knees up or down. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. You're going to inhale your right leg to the sky, and this time you'll stack your hips open. So remember what I was saying before with our, potential tendency to open our hips. Now you're going to just go with that, right? Open your hips up, bend your right knee, and then take this to any degree that you are comfortable with. Try to drop your left heel a little closer to your mat, and then see if you can take your left hip further from your left armpit. So you're obviously stretching your right hip, you're stretching the right side of your body, but see if you can maintain the length in the left side as well. And then on your next inhale, square off your hips, straighten out your right leg. Exhale to step your right foot between your hands. Drop your back heel. We're coming right back to Warrior One for one breath in, and as you exhale, we're opening to Warrior Two. So this is a slightly different stance. It's basically the same angle in the back foot, except you're going to step your back foot a little bit more towards the right side of your mat, and then maybe you step your front foot a little bit more forward. Take your arms out wide. And then sink down into this front leg, right? So Warrior One had a lot to do with hip neutrality, right? So both hips being square to the front of your mat. Warrior Two is about opening the hips, right? So you're thinking, you're now kind of facing the side of the room or the side of wherever you are. You're gonna keep your right knee tracking right over your heel, and you're gonna keep your back leg really, really straight. Make sure your back toes are turned in. They should be facing the same direction as your back knee. And that protects your knee joint. And then from here, let your hips start to get heavy so you can really start to sink down. Take really special care to make sure your right knee doesn't collapse inward, right? So use your inner thigh to draw your right knee out past your right big toe. You should be able to see your right big toe. Arms out wide, shoulders together behind your spine, behind your heart, palms facing down, gaze past your right hand. Have a couple of breaths here and draw your rib cage in, right? Lift your low belly. You always want to be strong in your core. Like I said, no death grips, no crazy but you want to be active, right? And then think about your feet. They should be strong. They should feel really, really solid, because then you can really just lift up. Take one more deep breath in here. And then as you exhale, gently bring your both hands to frame your right foot. You're going to come to a low lunge. So your right foot should be right in line with your hands, and then you're going to lower your back knee all the way down to your mat. So we're coming into Anjaneyasana, low crescent. Now, if you want a little bit of help with your balance, you're going to keep your back toes tucked. Otherwise, they can untuck, and you can kind of give the top of your foot a little bit of a stretch, right? It's up to you. Bring your hands to your right knee, and then start to lift your torso away from your right thigh. And so from here, you can keep your hands on your right thigh like this, or you can take them to your hips. Try to square them to the front of the room. Tilt your pelvis forward so that your low back stays long. And then as you're ready, in time, lift your arms up. I love this overhead camera. I just can't get over it. All right, so from here, Anjaneyasana is about stretching into the hips, but also really stretching this left thigh. So you can feel free to kind of sink a little bit into your hips, not so much that you're just dumping, right? So sink a little bit, but keep active in your core. Think about lifting your hips, your ribs rather, away from your hips, and really lift up through the side waists of your body, like those muscles that surround your rib cage. Take one more inhale here, stretch up, and then exhale your hands to your mat, working into half splits. So you're going to stack your left hip exactly on top of your left knee and keep that same position in your back leg, right? When your front leg, you're going to kind of scooch your right foot forward, at the same time pulling your right hip back. Pull your right toes towards your face. This is an isolated hamstring stretch, and you're just going to fold in. And try to do it keeping your neck long, right? So you don't really want to like wear your shoulders as earrings, because this doesn't promote deep breathing, right? So keep everything long. Think about reaching your heart towards your toes. Just have a couple breaths here. Really get into this right leg, this right thigh, right hip, everything. One last breath in. One last breath out. And then gently bend back into your right knee. Plant your right foot. Frame it with your hands. Lift your left knee off the ground. Step back to plank pose. And lower through your vinyasa. So lower halfway or all the way down, whatever you need. Exhale. Inhale for cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhale your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take a couple breaths, sigh it out, relax your face. Keep your neck long, shake your head, pedal your feet out. Notice the difference between the two sides of your body. And then let's do the other side. So when you're ready, inhale your left leg up and back. And this time you're gonna let your hips kind of splay open. Bend your left knee. As you do this, try to drop your right heel a little closer to your mat. Keep your neck long, keep your head relaxed. And then let your hips open as much as they want. And you can kind of see how my right side starts to crunch. So you wanna take your right hip back, away from your right shoulder at the same time you open your hips. So there's always a compromise, right? So you never lengthen something and open something at the expense of lengthening something else. So keep everything as long as you can. On your next inhale, straighten out your left leg, square off your hips, and then exhale, step your left foot forward between your hands. Spin your right heel down, and then one inhale to warrior one. As you exhale, you're going to start opening to warrior two. So you can take a few breaths, a few steps to do this. It's important to get your foundation set, like I said, right? So your stance is probably going to be a little wider. You're going to be taking up a little more space on your mat. The angle of your back foot is going to be roughly the same. As long as your back toes are facing the same direction as your back knee, you're going to be fine. Bend into your front knee and just kind of start to ease your way down deeper, right? So you might start out kind of like this, and then you can start to get a little bit deeper, 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 as long as this knee stays tracking over your ankle. You don't want it to pop out in front. And at the same time, you're thinking about spreading your hips wide, right? So use that left inner thigh to kind of ease your left knee out. You should be able to see your left big toe. And then make this back leg strong, like really flex your thigh muscle so that you can be supported by this leg. The warrior poses are they're leg heavy, right? They're leg poses. And yes, the rest of your body's working too, but it's, like I said, it's that really, really firm, strong foundation. Take your arms out wide. Take your gaze right past the middle finger of your left hand, palms facing down, and then everything's active, right? So you're gonna hug your arm muscles to your arm bones, draw your rib cage in, lift your low belly up towards your heart, really make everything just broad and open, but contained at the same time. Sit a little bit lower if you can. Keep your neck nice and long. Relax your face. Take one more breath. And then as you exhale, bring your hands to frame your left foot, nice and easy. Turn all 10 toes to face forward, and then slowly lower your right knee to the ground. So we're working into Anjaneyasana, low crescent lunge. And same deal for this side. If you want a little help with balance, keep your back toes tucked. Otherwise, untuck them. Bring your hands to the top of your left knee. And just start to kind of push up a little bit. And this is a great place to sit. You can stay just like this, or maybe take your hands to your hips and sort of just ease your right hip forward and your left hip back. And then as you're ready, take your arms to the sky. Be really conscious of this front foot. That's going to help you balance a lot. So it's like you're pressing down, like I said before, kind of like a gas pedal, right? Like right into the ball of your left foot so that you can lift your ribs away from your hips. Get long in your waist and let your hips just sink down just a little bit, not too much. And draw your belly up. You want to keep your core contracted. It's going to protect your spine. Take one more inhale here, stretch up. And then exhale, bring your hands all the way back down to your mat, setting up for half splits. So stack your right hip directly over your right knee. And then it's a combination of scooching your left foot forward and then pulling your left hip back, right? Working to straighten your left leg. Pull your left toes back towards your face. And it's worth mentioning, if your leg doesn't straighten all the way, it's not a problem. It will eventually if you keep doing this. So it's repetition. Just do it more and it'll become easier. It's a slow process. But one of the really great things about yoga is that it teaches us patience. So you're going to work towards straightening this leg. And again, it'll happen when it happens. Just keep those hips square to the front of your mat and fold with an open heart, right? So instead of scrunching like this, you're going to keep your neck long, reach your heart towards your toes. One more deep breath wherever you are. And one more deep breath out. Very softly, bend back into your left knee. Come all the way back to your low runner's lunge, so lifting your right knee off the ground, hands frame your left foot, step back to plank pose. And this time you're going to lower all the way down to your belly. So we're going to take a different variation of cobra pose. I call this spider cobra. I'm not sure if that's the technical term for it, but it kind of looks like a spider. So we're going to start with untucking your toes, straightening your legs back behind you. And then, like I said before, just press your big toes into your mat. That's going to kind of help your alignment, right? You're going to take your fingertips and tent them right kind of in front of your shoulders. So depending on where you are on your mat, that could be past the front edge of your mat or it could be still on your mat, but you want them about 6 inches in front of your shoulders and just wider than shoulder width distance. Make sure that your fingertips are strong into the ground. Tuck your chin to your chest and then begin to push down into your fingertips to lift your heart. And then see your hips are going to stay on your mat. And then as you start to come up, your chin stays tucked into your chest. Start to draw your shoulders together behind you, rolling your shoulder heads away from your ears. And then when you've come as far as you want to come, start lifting your chin up out of your chest. And then if you want to go further, you can even work towards straightening your arms. So as you see, my hips, my pelvis, my legs, everything's down on the ground, and I'm initiating a back bend in my thoracic spine. So the thoracic spine's right behind your heart, like where your shoulder blades are. And then imagine you were a king cobra, like really just push everything forward. Draw the sides of your neck back. Just broaden your chest. Take a couple of huge, deep breaths. Enjoy this feeling. Last breath in, really use your finger strength to open your heart. And then as you exhale, slowly lower all the way down to your mat. One more back bend. So from here, you're going to bring your chin to your mat, and then you're going to take your arms alongside your body, palms facing down. As you're ready, you're going to float your shoulders, your chin, and your heart off of your mat. Draw your arms up, and then activate your fingers as if you were trying to touch your feet with your hands, right? So pull your shoulders down. Keep your gaze a little bit down for now. And then this is a great place to stay. You're using your arm strength to push your heart forward and draw it up off of your mat. If you want a little bit more, you can float your legs. Maybe it's just your toes, maybe it's just a couple inches off the ground, or maybe you can float your knees off the ground like you're trying to scratch the back wall with your toenails. If you want to come a little bit higher, try floating your thighs off the ground, and you can feel everything in your posterior chain activated, like everything on the back side of your body. It's tremendous stretch for the front of your body. It's tremendous activation for the back of your body. These are all the muscles that support your spine. This is extremely important. Take one more deep breath in, just like this. Lift as high as you can. And then exhale, release. And this time, rest. Take one ear to your mat, left or right. Turn your palms up to just release your arms and your shoulders. Let your feet fall open, and you can even kind of just wiggle your hips from side to side a little bit. Take a couple deep breaths here. Take a deep breath in, and a deep breath out. And feel free to stay here and rest for another couple of minutes. If you're with me, gently bring your hands back under your shoulders and soften your hips back under your heels for child's pose. So we have just a little bit more work to do before we cool down. At this point, you can grab some water, maybe towel off, or stay just like you are. As you're ready, we're going to come all the way back to downward facing dog. Tuck your toes, bring your hands under your shoulders, lift your hips up, and drop your head low. So we're going to go through what we just did, except I'm going to add on a couple of poses. So as you're ready, gather your strength. Inhale your right leg to the sky. And then exhale, step your right foot between your hands. Setting up for warrior one. So you're going to spin your left heel down at about 45 degrees. One deep breath in to open to warrior one, or rather lift. And then on your exhale, you're going to open straight to warrior two. So widening your stance, taking your arms out wide, hips open. Just stay for a couple of breaths. Really get into that front leg, really straighten your back leg. Make sure your foot positioning is right. Last deep breath in. And as you exhale, you're going to come right down back to your low lunge. Instead of going to Anjaneyasana, we're going to come to something called lizard's pose, right? So turn all 10 toes to face the front of the room. Lower your left knee down to the ground. And then bring both hands inside your right foot. So your hands should still be about shoulder width distance. So you might have to kind of heel toe your right foot out to the right. That's totally fine. And then from here, try to keep your right knee close to your right shoulder. If this is enough of a stretch for you, stay just like this. Just breathe. If you want a little bit more, you're going to start to bend your elbows towards the back of the room, and keeping your right knee kind of hugging into your body. And you might come all the way down to your forearms. See if you can do this, keeping your face relaxed, keeping everything open, and just send your breath right into your right hip. And then something that helps keep your right knee in is if you can press down, like that gas pedal analogy I keep using, right? Kind of press down into the ball of your right foot, draw your right knee in. Last deep breath here. And slowly exhale. From here, coming into King Lizard pose, you're going to slowly just straighten your arms, keep your back knee down on the ground. Come to your left fingertips, or you can keep your left hand flat on the ground. If it's okay with your knee, you're going to just dial your right toes out to the right just a little bit, right? If your knee is healthy. And then bending your back knee, your left knee, you're going to take your heel in towards your hips. And maybe that's where you stay, right? If you want a little more, take your gaze back, see if you can locate your left foot with your eyes first. And then slowly lift up your torso, reach back with your right arm, and grab your left foot. So that might not happen. If not, you can kind of just hang out here. Like I said, with repetition, if you keep coming back to this and doing it, it'll happen. If you're almost there and you want to get all the way there, something I like to do is take my hips back, kind of like chase my heel with my hips, right? And then I can grab my back foot, and then I start to send my hips back forward. And then the real challenge is, can you open your right shoulder? So it's almost like you're just trying to get your heart to face the ceiling, right? So it's a twist and an opening. And again, it's the stretch of that left thigh, the front of that left hip, as well as the inside of your right shoulder. So just let this feel really, really good. Take one last deep breath in, and then slowly, without slingshotting your back foot, release. Making your way through your vinyasa. So you're going to lift your left knee off the ground, heel toe your right foot back between your hands, nice and slow. Step back to plank pose. Take a big breath in. And then exhale, lower, halfway or all the way down. Inhaling for cobra or upward facing dog. And then exhaling for downward facing dog. One more side to go. Inhale your left leg to the sky. And as you exhale, step your left foot between your hands. Setting up for warrior one. So spin your right foot down 45 degrees. One inhale to lift your arms up. And then exhale to open to warrior two. Adjust your feet as needed. And then use your thighs, your legs to open your hips a little bit more. Sink deep. Just a couple of breaths here. Strong arms, soft gaze. Last deep breath in. And then as you exhale, slowly bring your hands to the ground. Turn all 10 toes to face forward. And again, working into lizard pose. So drop your right knee to the ground. And then heel toe your left foot out to the left just a little bit more so that your hands can be shoulder width distance. Right, so stacked right under your shoulders. And again, this might be enough. If this is enough, stay just like this. If you want a little more, you're going to start to bend your elbows towards the back of the room, always leading with your heart, always keeping an open heart. And then maybe you'll make it onto your forearms. Maybe not today, maybe eventually. Try to keep your left knee hugging into your body. Press down into that left big toe. You could drop your head, relax everything, take your gaze towards the back of your mat. Take one more deep breath in, and then one more deep breath out. And then slow as can be, coming into King Lizard. So very gently, you're going to lift back up to straight arms. Again, if it's okay with your left knee, you're going to dial your left toes out to the left just a little bit, 10 or 20 degrees. And then keep your right hand where it is. Start to bend your left knee, right knee, excuse me. Bend your right knee. Look back with your eyes first, see if you can see your right foot. And then you can stay just like this, or start to reach your left arm behind you. Maybe grabbing your left foot. If you grab it from the outside edge, then it gives you a better opportunity to open your left shoulder, right? So once you have your foot, if you do, then you're going to start to open. Turn your heart to face the ceiling. And then sink into your right hip. And really just enjoy the feeling of twisting and opening. Each inhale getting you longer, and each exhale sinking you deeper. Take one more deep breath, and then slowly release. No slingshots. Gently lift your right knee off the ground, make your way back to low lunge. Frame your left foot with your hands. This is your last vinyasa, so you're going to step your foot back to plank pose. Inhale to prepare. And then exhale to flow, lower halfway or all the way. Inhale for your back bend, cobra or up dog. And then exhale up and back, downward facing dog. So we're going to take it to the floor from here. As you're ready, you're going to soften down to tabletop pose, to hands and knees. So from your tabletop pose, we're going to work into hero pose. This is a more restorative, relaxing pose. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's a stretch for your thighs, the tops of your feet, the outsides of your knees. So the way to set this up is from tabletop, take your knees just a little closer in. They don't have to be touching, but they should only be a few inches apart. And then your feet come wider than your hips. So not really wide because you don't want to hurt yourself, but just enough clearance so that eventually you could walk your hands back and sit on the ground between your feet. Now, that might not be happening. This is a pretty intense stretch on the knees, hips, on the ankles. So if not, that's what your hands are there for, right? So you can stay up as long as you want, If you want to put something under your hips like a block or a blanket, that's absolutely fine too, or even a small stool. And like I said, you get the benefits of this stretch without going full into it. So the point of it is not to get as deep as you can. The point of it is to stretch, right? So you can even move your calves out to the sides a little bit if you want to clear some space. And if you are sitting all the way down between your feet and you want to go a little further, take your fingertips behind you. Lift up your hips. I'm going to move forward a little bit so I have enough room to do this. So you're going to take your fingertips behind you, lift up your hips, and send your tailbone forward. This kind of makes a little more space in your low back. And then from here, you can either come down to your elbows and stay here. And just really breathe into the fronts of your legs, the tops of your feet, wherever you feel this the most. If you want a little bit more, you're just going to come all the way down onto your back, softening everything. Maybe grab opposite elbows above your head. Wherever you are here, just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. The hard part's over. All you have to do now is relax. Start to soften your breath. Just let it feel good. Whatever it is. If you've gone too deep, if you feel really uncomfortable, just back off a little bit. The goal is to feel better after this than you did before, basically. So as you're ready, you're just going to really gently retrace your steps and start to come up. And come all the way forward, right back into your tabletop position. All the way back to your hands and knees. Just swing your legs out in front of you. nice and slow. Make sure you have enough space to lie down. That's where we're going next. So you're going to straighten your legs out in front of you. Reach your arms towards the front of the room. Start to round your spine. And then as you roll down, you're going to try to make contact between each vertebra and the floor, like one by one, little dominoes, right? So just start to roll as slowly as you can, all the way down till you get to the bottom. Once you're on your back, take a big good morning stretch. Reach your fingers behind you, your toes out front, and wiggle your hips a little bit. Really just stretch everything. And then bridge pose. It's just to release a little bit of front body, right? So bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet down to your mat, and you want your feet parallel. Your toes shouldn't be turning out or in. So see if you can get them parallel. This should be about hips width distance. Keep your hands flat on the ground. And as you're ready, float your hips off your mat just a little bit. And then you could take this as far as you want to take it, right? So you can keep your arms flat down on the ground. If you want a little bit more, you can interlace your hands under your spine. Press the pinky side edge down. And then one by one, just kind of walk your shoulders underneath you. So what this does is really exposes your heart, your chest. Lift your hips up higher. Always keep some space between your chin and your chest. That's going to keep the natural curve in your neck, right? And just have a couple breaths here. Push down in your arms and your heels to lift your hips and your heart higher. Take one more deep breath in. And then very slowly free your hands and roll down one vertebra at a time. Keeping your knees bent just like this, just a real easy release of the spine. Your feet come out wide and your knees come together. Taking your arms to a T, straight out, or a goalpost, whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you have room for. Just real slow. Start to windshield wiper your knees back and forth. Dropping your knees towards one side and then the other. Feel free to pause for a few breaths on one side and then the other. Just, nothing difficult. Just a real kind of neutralization of the spine. And then as you're ready, draw your knees into your chest. Softly. Use your hands on your knees to kind of massage your low back. So just real easy, gentle rocking side to side. You could even make circular motions using your knees almost like a steering wheel, right? And then draw your knees in a little bit more. Draw your eyes towards your kneecaps. Make a tiny ball. Take one more deep breath in here. And then as you exhale, release. Find Shavasana. So Shavasana means corpse pose. And traditionally it's just, lying flat on your back, everything spread out wide, palms up, feet open. But really just take the pose, whatever position is going to help you totally relax, right? So maybe your knees are bent and your feet are together. Maybe your feet are on the ground, your knees are together and your feet are out wide. And whatever you need, whatever is going to let you make no effort at all. So just start to soften everything. Relax your face. Let your eyeballs relax. Soften your gaze. Eyes open or closed. Relax your lips, your jaw, your tongue. Let it be free and loose in your mouth and in your throat. And relax your neck and your shoulders, your arms, your fingertips. Relax your belly, your abdomen. Soften your hips, release your hips. Relax your thighs, your knees, your calves, ankles, feet, and toes. And just let everything be easy. Easy, slow breaths. And soft, slow breaths. And you can feel free to stay here as long as you want, as long as you can. And when you're ready to come out, gently start to deepen your breath. Invite some movement into your fingers and toes. Just wiggle them around a little bit. Just easing everything back to life. Take a deep breath in. Stretch your fingertips above your head. Stretch your toes out. And then very slowly, very gently roll over onto your right side. You can use your right arm as a pillow. Keep everything soft. And very slowly, maybe keeping your eyes closed or halfway closed, push up and come to a seat anywhere on your mat, anywhere that's comfortable. Cross your legs. Take your palms to heart center. Lift your heart up and bow your chin to your chest. Thank yourself for your practice, for your commitment, dedication.